There are only 4 kinds of sentences that you need to know about. And the difference between the sentences has to do with the relationship between what you're saying in those sentences and what the reader already knows. So the first of these sentences is what we would call descriptive. It tells the reader something that the reader will accept as an established truth. Either it's something the reader knows to be generally true, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, or it's something that has been established in a discipline and the reader accepts at face value that you've represented that fact accurately to them. The second kind of sentence, though, is completely the opposite of the descriptive sentence, and that's the argumentative sentence. The problem with the descriptive sentence is it stops at the edge of known knowledge. It doesn't tell us anything new, it tells us only what we've already established. The argumentative sentence, on the other hand, leaps off into the void and makes a new truth claim about the world. So, for instance, a good example would be, the sun will likely reverse its pattern of rising and setting in the next 10 years as a side effect of global warming. Now, a sentence like this is so far away from what is obviously the case that the reader cannot accept that this is the truth. But in the context of an essay or academic writing, the reader very generously will say, okay, this is an argument that the writer wants to make, and I'll accept it as a provisional truth, as a supposition which I'll give the reader or the writer some time to prove over the course of the next pages. So, how do we move between these 2 very different kinds of sentences, descriptive sentences and argumentative sentences? The answer is in the third kind of sentence, and those are what I would call analytical sentences. So analytical sentences take the stuff of description, the facts of the world, the facts of your discipline, and they do some kind of analysis on those. They reveal something within those facts that is not obviously true or that has not been noticed before. Analytical sentences may link 2 disparate pieces of information, or they may analyze a piece of information, finding something hidden within it that is not obviously true. Finally, the 4th kind of sentence I want to talk about is more or less, if you hear it, it's going to sound exactly like an argumentative sentence. It's the evaluative sentence. Evaluative sentences do make big truth claims, just like argumentative sentences. The difference, though, is then the relationship of the truth claim to what the reader knows. Because evaluative sentences come at the very end of your paragraph, at the end of your essay, at the end of your thesis, the end of your book. So in other words, they come at a point when your reader has already seen all the evidence and analysis that you need to present. The reader is now in the same position as you, having all the evidence available and able to see now whether that big truth claim you made right at the beginning of your writing, the thesis statement, really can hold water. What are the pet peeves? Yeah. I guess there are a number of them. One of them would be that the essay that has absolutely no argumentative point, that is a series of descriptions of things that are already known, perhaps with a little bit of an analysis built into it, but it doesn't ever arrive at any large point to be made. If you actually try to set out to write your essay like this at the very beginning, in your first draft, you're going to severely hamper your ability to think through your writing. Okay? So what I would say to you is use your writing to find your big ideas. Don't control those ideas from the beginning, limit those ideas, and limit your writing to what you can think of before you've even put fingers to keyboard, pen to paper, or whatever other method you use. So, I'm a real fan of free writing. Start thinking about your subject, start writing down the relevant facts, start analyzing those facts, and as you do that, you will begin to make small argumentative steps, things that you realize in the course of contemplating and writing about the subject. So what this means, if you work by the method of free writing, is that you're going to end up with a draft which is incredibly disorganized. But you, now understanding very clearly the 4 different kinds of sentences, should be able to go back through that many pages of drafting and find out what each of those sentences actually is in terms of its level, its structural level. Is it argument? Is it description? Is it analysis? Is it evaluation? And very particularly, you're going to be looking for the big ideas. The very biggest idea you discover in that writing, which might be, in the middle of the paragraph on page 4, is your thesis statement. So you have to be able to excavate your writing, find the different kinds of sentences, and reorganize all of that stuff so you produce an essay structure which is rhetorically powerful.